Remove screws and take off head covers and head gaskets. Check for damage to contact surfaces, to heads, and for blowholes. Change cover gaskets. Reassemble covers on heads. Lock screws crosswise with dynamometric spanner to the prescribed torque value. Remove securing screws and take protective covers off alternator unit. Remove screws securing stator to timing cover and slide stator out. Remove center screw of rotor securing it to drive shaft, slip rotor out and remove locking spline. Remove securing screws and take off timing cover with its gasket. Remove chain stretcher. Remove securing screw of sound wheel and take it out. Remove the 2 screws, timing gear to shaft, chain and oil pump gear. Remove piston rings and slip the 2 rocker arms and the oil delivery union out. Check that pin surface in contact with rocker arms is not overworn. Check that longitudinal milling is set towards oil delivery duct. Insert oil delivery union and rocker arms on the axes, locking them in place with the piston rings. Check that rocker arm push rods are straight. An easy way to check if the pressed ends on the rods, pads, have become slack is to drop them from a short distance onto a flat surface. On impact, rods should produce a high-pitched metallic sound. This indicates that the pad has no slack. Put left cylinder on top dead center by checking driving shaft gear is at top of its perpendicular axis. Position timing shaft with gear reference pin pointing downwards. Insert oil pump shaft locking spline. Insert the 2 gears with the timing belt. Once assembled, check position of indicator notches and tighten screws with dynamometric spanner to prescribed torque. Tighten oil pump nut with oil pump shaft held still. Insert belt stretcher and tighten with dynamometric spanner to prescribed torque. Sound wheel position is given by the dowel on timing shaft. Position sound wheel by checking correct insertion on timing shaft, see notch, and tighten using dynamometric spanner to prescribed torque. Once the gasket is inserted, remount cover on timing and tighten with dynamometric spanner to prescribed torque. After positioning the goniometer and centesimal comparator, put the cylinder at top dead center in compression phase and check exact positioning by following the centesimal comparator readings. Zero goniometer using top dead center on indicator as reference. Adjust tappets to theoretical clearance prescribed. Turn clockwise until contact between rod and rocker arm is reached, and on goniometer, check intake valve advance with respect to top dead center. Continue to turn until rod is free. Read the value representing retard of the valve closing with respect to bottom dead center. Repeat operation for the other valves. Adjust tappet clearance to clearance prescribed. Insert the contact washer, locking spline and rotor, and tighten the screw nut with the dynamometric spanner to torque. Insert stator and its cover and tighten the 3 screws. Mount prescribed engine flywheel stopping tool on block. Unscrew clutch plate securing screws and remove it, complete with starter ring. Remove clutch disc. Check clutch disc for scratches or overwear. Check anti-jerk rings and that clutch disc thickness is not less than value prescribed. If so, clutch disc must be replaced. Check clutch disc ring gears of rim and contact surface for wear. Once the flywheel stopping tool has been inserted, insert cup with relative blocking ring. Position appropriate tool to center clutch disc on plate and position disc in seat. Fix the assembly on flywheel thrust plate by tightening screws to torque. Remove stop ring and engage-disengage cup. Remove screws securing thrust plate flywheel to driving shaft. Then take it out. Check that flywheel surfaces in contact with disc are not scratched. Check that driving shaft contact surfaces are not deformed. If so, flywheel must be replaced. Tighten the screws and insert the appropriate flywheel stopping tool. Crosswise lock screws with dynamometric spanner to prescribe torque. It is advisable to replace flywheel securing screws to driving shaft. Crosswise unscrew nuts at block securing heads, cylinders and rocker arm pins. Remove top spacers, rocker arms complete with pins, bottom spacers, rocker arm control push rods and slide heads out of stud bolts. Place the prescribed tool on the top cap of the valve not to be removed and at the center of valve mushroom. Close tool by compressing the spring and hit the head of the tool with a mallet to remove the 2 cotters from top cap. Unscrew the tool and remove it from the head. Slip out top cap, spring, and then valve. Remove valve guide gaskets and take out bottom spring cap. Valve guides are removed with an appropriate punch and mallet by hitting from the inside towards the outside. This operation is made easier by preheating the head to about 50 to 60 degrees centigrade. Hit the valve guides back into place with punch and mallet from the outside towards the inside. It is advisable to preheat the head to around 60 degrees centigrade. Once the valve guides are back in place, rectify them with a reamer to obtain internal diameter measurement given in table. After valve guide replacement, or when valve seat is not tight, rectification must be carried out. Once the pilot tool has been chosen, put it in the valve guide and lock in place. Choose mill according to diameter and valve seat inclination. Insert the mill in pilot tool and carefully push it down to valve seat level. Put the mill in the T-spanner and turn clockwise, applying pressure lightly until uniform valve contact surface is obtained. Repeat operation with appropriate mill to restore valve blocking seat width. Remove all tools used when operation is completed. Put back spring bottom seats and use the prescribed tool to insert blocking gaskets on valve guide. Position new gasket and put engine head in seat. Insert bottom spacers of rocker arms, rocker arm push rods, rocker arms, and top spacers with all relative nuts. Clockwise lock the nuts to prescribed torque. Slip cylinders with their gaskets out of stud bolts. Remove the O-ring between block and cylinder. After checking scoring, use a centesimal comparator to check for cylinder surface wear. Measure inside cylinder diameter at 3 heights by revolving centesimal comparator by 90 degrees and repeat measurements. Centesimal comparator must be previously zeroed on a ring gauge. Check that compression ring notches are staggered at angles of about 120 degrees between each other. Once the new gasket is in place and the ring is inserted in its seat on the block, put an adequate market-available ring tightener on the piston. Lubricate inside cylinder wall and piston. Start fitting the piston in the cylinder seat using a mallet. Once past the segment area, remove ring tightener from piston and insert cylinder in its seat. After protecting cylinder seat, remove the 2 gudgeon retaining springs. Use the screw of the prescribed tool to slip gudgeon out and remove piston. Check that clearance between cylinders and pistons agrees with factory diameter specifics. Check that piston bears factory class mark and assembly arrow. In reassembling piston to conrod eye, heat piston in oil bath to about 60 degrees centigrade to slightly dilate it so gudgeon is easier to put back. Insert blocking spring in piston and fit appropriate tool on piston to insert gudgeon. Position piston with tool attached on the conrod and screw to insert gudgeon. Remove tool when operation is completed and insert the second blocking spring of gudgeon seat after protecting cylinder seat.